Hello, Minecraftians, and welcome to episode 13 of Realm News. I am your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I am reporting to you again from Newfoundland City. It is the perfect village for today's episode. Why do I say that? Well, this town with a population of 9 villagers is pinched between the ocean of Ambre and a massive swamp behind it that goes all the way to Charmois City. Over 1,000 blocks from here. Probably 2,000 blocks wide. That's how big this swampland is. You may be saying, so what? Well, reporting here today is fitting because I am presenting to you the Bogged. That is the nomenclature of the soon-to-be one of the newest mobs to be joining the overworld when the 1.21 update arrives, hopefully this upcoming June, if speculation remains accurate as it has in the past. The name is very fitting, the Bogged, because this grotesque creature will be habitating the swamps and mangrove biomes in the overworld. In this week's episode, I will explain to you all the info that I could find on the Bogged, so you will be prepared for when you meet him in the overworld, and I will also discuss in this a very famous quote-unquote bog body. So if you are ready to laisser les bons temps rouler, or let the good times roll, as they say in Louisiana swamps, then join me and let's go on a boat ride into the treacherous bog waters. Before we go any further, it is that part of the show again, folks. It's poll time! That's right, people. Poll time. And I have a very simple poll today. It is completely random. Or I like to do off-the-cuff polls occasionally, as you all know by now. And the question I posed to the Minecraft community this week was this. If you could only farm one of these 2 foods, which would you choose and why? Yes, 2 questions in one. And why? I provided 2 choices here. Carrots or wheat? I could not ask a more simple question than that. But this simple question had a great turnout. I was so shocked and pleased with this. It had 86 votes, people. I believe this poll now ranks with second place, if not being second place, for most votes out of all my polls I have conducted so far. Just so pleased. And I think this garnered so many votes because this is a tougher question than you would think. Imagine if you could only plant one of these forever in your overworld. In your seed world. What a perplexing question, right? That's a tough choice. I ask you, the listener, which would you choose? Think about it for a minute before I move on. I would go with the timeless wheat crop. That is what I chose. Wheat, mainly because I am very familiar with it. I like to make bread and breed my villagers that way. I think I chose it out of sheer habit, honestly. And also, I was introduced to it when I first started playing the game, and habits are just hard to break. Carrots have many advantages, though. It is a very versatile vegetable. You can make them into golden carrots by using 8 gold nuggets and 1 carrot. And according to Minecraft Wiki, mentions that a golden carrot will restore 600 points and 14.4 saturation points. It is the second most filling food in Minecraft after the golden apple. You can also use the golden carrot to breed horses, donkeys, and mules. I haven't personally gotten into breeding horses, donkeys, or mules. I know a lot of Minecrafters really get into that. I've spoken with Redditors about it, and so I can see the carrot being very important to people that find breeding donkeys, horses, and mules of importance. As I said, I haven't gone into that, so I don't even have a golden carrot. I have a golden apple that I haven't even used that I found a long time ago. So, wheat is wheat, and a golden carrot has that allure of the golden carrot, and you can use it to breed these 3 animals here. But the beauty of wheat, it's cheap. No gold required to grow a huge crop. And a good wheat crop will provide you a great harvest. You can use this to breed villagers by feeding bread made from wheat, as I had previously mentioned that I do. Or you can make hay bales, which are great for feeding llamas, horses, and for making smoke signals, which I have yet to do. I think that's really neat, and I read that in Wiki. And I think that would be pretty cool to make some. What I mean by smoke signals is you can make a wheat or a hay bale and put that over a campfire, and it will extend the trail of smoke up in the air further vertically, so people can see that from a further distance. And I think that would be handy. I mean, just to mark some cities and whatnot in case you get lost while roaming around outside perimeters. With that all said, the winner of today's poll, with a total of 56 votes, is wheat, the one I voted for. So I was part of the winners on this week's vote. And carrots came in with 30. So, I mean, it was a blowout for the Wheaties, us Wheaties here. I believe it is due, and I believe it won just solely to the fact that it is affordable. Wheat is one of those crops that you tend to make right off the bat when you enter the overworld by just hitting weeds, that grow out of the soil. And those tend to drop seeds that you can use to grow wheat. It's easy to come across right when you enter. So it being one of the first available crops to you when you come into the game, I personally think that's why people go towards wheat, and then they get into bread to breed villagers and probably become habituated to that, as I did. Personally, all my gold goes to power rails. As you all know, I am a rail person. And so naturally, all my gold goes into the power rails for my extensive rail system, which I'm proud to announce to you all is I have a 14.5-minute rail from one end to the other. And that's not all my rails combined. So yeah, I just wanted to brag a little. I do not have, I don't have time to lade in all my fruits and vegetables with gold like many others do, and I don't breed horses like I said, but again, it was very fun to make that poll and to hear all of that. Now, I want to hear from the poll takers themselves. I went ahead and, like I said, I got a lot of feedback from this poll, and a lot of people wrote in and commented on this, so I just want to read a handful of comments I selected. And I'm going to start with a person who goes by Rusted Russ, and they said, wheat is used to breed most animals, end quote. And I said, I agree. And such as your cows, right? This is what I use wheat for, my cow farm solely. That's the only reason I use wheat besides breeding villagers. And also, I do find that wheat fields give that nice pastoral look, that aesthetic around a village that is very pleasing to the eye when I start to come back to a city and I approach it from a distance and I see the wheat crops. However, you can't really see those in my city unless you're looking down from a hilltop, because my cities are all walled off with 4 high walls. My people are in prison, but I do this to protect them. But yes, I love that, and thank you so much, Rusted Rust, for that response. Moving on to a Cyan Gleeks. Cyan Gleeks states, quote, "Carrots are great for villager breeding and they do not fill your inventory with seeds." End quote. That is a very valid point, Cyan Gleeks. As I said, I use wheat just because I have grown accustomed to it. I don't really grow too many carrots, honestly. Charmois City, the name of one of my cities, I have a little carrot crop there. I have quite a few carrots in storage there from the past year of growing them, but I don't really use carrots, as I stated. But that is a great point that you make with the inventory, that when you swath your wheat field, for example, for your harvest, when you're harvesting your wheat field, it creates 2 byproducts, which is wheat and wheat seeds. As opposed to carrots, when you do that with carrots, you're just collecting carrots. There's no seeds dropping, as they mention. And with the wheat, this can quickly take up your inventory space, which can be a nuisance, because there's a lot of seeds being produced every time that you go in and swath that wheat field and pick it up. That's why every one of my wheat fields has a chest right next to it. That's where I store all my extra seeds and bales of wheat, right there in that chest for later use. And I'll come back when need be. And every one of my villages has a wheat crop nearby. I do this, and it's called the Community Crop Program, the Ombre Dieu Community Crop Program. That way the farmers can feed the people and everything. But thank you, Cyan Gleeks, for making that point. That was a great comment. Thank you. Now, moving on, I won't say the name of this person because their username was inappropriate for on the air. But they do, I'm just going to go ahead and read their comment that they have. Quote, "Carrots plus gold equal good food source. But wheat does help with breeding a lot of livestock. Hard choice. I'm going with wheat." End quote. And I said tough choice indeed. And you are correct on everything that you said. As I had mentioned earlier, the carrot will replenish your hunger point by 6 points and your saturation by 14.4. But again, it costs in gold, and that is why I believe they went with wheat as well. Like me, they're cheap like me. Maybe they are into rail building as well. Maybe they have a better, they have better uses for gold than consuming it. But that was a great poll, and I cannot wait for the next one that I conduct. Wheat or carrots, folks? What do you choose? I'm leaving it up to you. Now let's move on where I put the reel back in the realm. We are going into the swamps or the bogs, where the bog bodies lie in the shallow, murky waters. Shall we? After you. Don't worry, I'm right behind you, people. Now, let's go into the swamps. Bogs. What a fun word to say. An appropriate monosyllabic word for a damp, spongy earth place. Bog is a synonym to marsh and swamp. In fact, I would like to break this word down even further by going to the trusty Merriam-Webster dictionary online to find out exactly how they define this word. And this is what I found, folks. And I would like to say this is the geographic term or definition of the word bog. And it goes as this. Quote, wet, spongy ground, especially a poorly drained, usually acid area rich in accumulated plant material, frequently surrounding a body of open water and having a characteristic flora as of sedges, heaths, and sphagnum. End quote. Thank you, Merriam-Webster, for that exact definition on bogs. And it is an apt description of these biomes. To go a step further with the word bog, it stems back to Middle English, specifically originating from the Scottish and Irish Gaelic word boglua, and from the Middle Irish word bock, B-O-C-C, which means soft. Doesn't that sound appropriate? Soft, this loamy ground. Can you picture it in your head? I think it's very appropriate. I can see the B-O and the B-O-C-C, the prefix of it, how it fits in with the word bog, B-O-G-G, the C-C being dropped off from that over time. Going into the word boglua. I don't know, very interesting. I find that very fascinating. I love that type stuff. Again, a very appropriate descriptor for this loamy, water-entrenched land. Now that we have the definition of the word bog, I would like to give you an idea on where bogs are found on Earth. According to this site that I found, www.wwt.org.uk over in Britain, wetlands are typically found in the northern hemisphere in colder, temperate climates. In fact, the UK and Ireland are home to 20% of the world's blanket bogs. And blanket bogs, these are just huge swaths of bog that encompass an entire landscape, from what I read on this fascinating website. In fact, this website was very neat. I'll leave it in the show description like I always do. And from what I saw on the website, this is like a conservation group that tends to the wetlands over in the UK. They have a lot of fascinating information. I recommend go checking out. It looks beautiful. They have discovered, according to this website, a 5,500-year-old farming community entombed in a peat bog. I thought that was just awesome. And it was found on the west side of Ireland, off the north coast of Mayo County. Just in case you want to go on a European vacation, or maybe you live in Europe and you're listening to the show, go check out Mayo County, north coast of Ireland, west side of Ireland. I thought that was just an amazing fact, people. And if I ever make it back to Europe, which it's been about 18 years, I want to come back. Somebody buy me a ticket, please. I want to go check out those bogs. Now that we have a rudimentary understanding of these bogs, I am now going to tell you about a very famous person. This will blow your mind, this person. It is such an interesting story. The person's name is the Tollund Man. The Tollund Man is a very famous corpse, probably one of the most famous out of all the bog bodies. What makes this person so fascinating is the preservation of him. And where you say, what are bog bodies? Well, bog bodies are bodies found in bogs. I found an amazing article that I highly recommend that you read when I'm done listening to this episode. It is titled, "What Did Tollund Man, One of Europe's Famed Bog Bodies, Eat Before He Died?" Written by Nora McGreevy, found at SmithsonianMag.com. Otherwise, you know Smithsonian Magazine, everybody. The article explains that the Tollund Man was found in the... I do not know how to pronounce this word at all, but it's Dutch, I believe. But I'll try it. The Bogged Peat Bog, located in north central Denmark back in 1950. And I apologize for that mispronunciation. I should have looked that up beforehand, and I failed to do so. So I am sorry, everybody in Denmark. However, back in 1950 is where they discovered this Tollund man. And they went on this article and say people thought that was a corpse when they came upon him. However, this fellow is said to be 2,400 years old. Yeah, when they found him, they thought this was like a fresh kill, this corpse. And you'll know why after I describe this photo, because I'm about to describe you this photo that is in front of me of the Tollund man. First and foremost, this picture is just of his head. I just want to let you know. I don't have it of the rest of his body. But I've got to say, this guy does not look like a 2,400-year-old corpse. That's probably why the people that found him were shocked. This looks like a man taking a nap. No, I'm dead serious. Go check out this photo. Like, get online, type in Tollund man, and check it out. It looks like a man taking a nap. He is perfectly preserved. Like, I can't stress that enough. He looks peaceful. He has even like a slight smile on his face, like he's dreaming of something pleasant while he's sleeping. It's off-putting. It's uncanny feeling, you know? Like that uncanny valley theory feeling. You can see even he has a 5 o'clock shadow going. He has a little bit of stubble on his face. It is a perfect preservation of a face. A 2,400-year-old face. He has from what I see, a hood over him. You can see like his temples, the wrinkles, everything. It just astonishes me. Go check it out, people. That hood, though, however, from the article describes that's a woolen cap, a nice little wool cap he had on, and he also has a noose around his neck. Yes, a noose. You heard me right. Unfortunately, it didn't go well for this guy. The Tollund man was killed. From what I've read, let me go on. In the article, the man obviously has been hanged. And they have a pretty specific time period for this that scientists have been able to go back and describe that he was hanged around the time between 405 and 380 BCE. It just is kind of, I don't know, it's weird that we can get it pinpointed that specific to knowing of when he was hung. It's just crazy how far science has gone, and it's going to really blow your mind the further I read this, what I've read about this article. We know how to find out a lot about corpses, obviously, and I'll get to that in a second. From what they described of this hanging, it was a ritualistic killing of sorts. It goes on to say that archaeologists, their general consensus is that he was a human sacrifice. And the Smithsonian speculates that the sacrifice was for fertility. It didn't really elaborate much more than that in the article, and I didn't really delve in much further. But I thought that was interesting and worth noting. The article describes that the Tollund man was placed in a carved-out section of peat in the bog, and placed there and positioned in a sleeping manner purposefully. Like I said, he looks like he was asleep, so I guess it was evident that he was positioned on purpose in that way, in a sleeping position, which that's just, I don't know, that's just very interesting. And as I had stated while describing the man's face, just peaceful. The most remarkable thing, though, about this is how the bog preserved this man. McGreevy's article explains that bogs are perfect places for human body preservation because they have a high acidity, low oxygen, they're in a cold environment, and a sphagnum, like I said in that definition earlier, that a sphagnum moss that undergoes some sort of chemical reaction with the corpse that helps aid in the preservation process. Isn't that fascinating, people? One of the most remarkable things, though, from the article, which is part of the title of the article, is what was in his gut. It is simply amazing, as I have said, just how advanced science and archaeology has come. Truly, we now have instruments sensitive enough to look inside a 2,400-year-old person's stomach and see exactly what their last meal was. This guy's last meal happened to be porridge. Nothing fancy for this poor human sacrifice. In fact, they estimate that the Tollund man ate his last meal between 12 to 24 hours prior to his death. So we know almost the exact time he ate this last meal and the year. Amazing. And we probably know that just by how long it takes to digest food. That's probably not anything remarkable in science anymore, but still, I think that's just fascinating. And we also know exactly what the porridge consisted of because, according to the article, of the macrofossils inside of his intestines that were still there. And combine that with the current technology we have, the technology that we have this day and age, we were able to break down, or I should say scientists, I wasn't part of this team. The scientists were able to break down the components of the last meal and discover that it consisted of barley, a pale Piscicaria, which I guess is a type of a weed. It also had flax in there. You've all probably heard of flax. And I guess some small bits of bony fish. Maybe a little portion of that was in that porridge. And one thing that does puzzle these archaeologists, besides all the whys and whats on the killings of the man, is the threshing or the wild seeds that are normally removed from the wanted grains that were found in his gut, in that porridge that he ate. Threshing was commonly added. They can't determine if this threshing was commonly added to their meals for additional nutrition or if it was added to this particular porridge for this special ceremonial execution. They don't know whether what the two were. They just don't have any evidence of why threshing was added to the porridge. And let me go ahead and just... Threshing was a process to remove unwanted grains, if that makes sense, and just keep the ones that they wanted to ingest. But this had threshing in it, and that's why they're puzzled. They don't know why it was in there. No matter, the Tollund man will remain somewhat a mystery to us for now. And I say that we don't know why he was executed. We don't know much about the porridge. That's why I say that he will remain a mystery for now. But I'm a person who has strong belief in science. And if we're able to molecularly break down everything that 2,400-year-old bog body ate, then who knows what we will discover another decade. You know what I mean? I just think I just have that much faith in scientific advancements, and I think that there's going to be so much more that we're going to discover about the Tollund man the further that we progress. And by the way, folks, the Tollund man is just one in quite a few bog bodies found in Europe. So who knows what you'll find or what we'll find in that bog, you know? There could be much more well-preserved bog bodies out there that will shed much more scientific light on how these people lived back then. However, I can tell you one entity that you will find in the Minecraft swamp, and that is the bog. And that is where we're going, people. We're going back into the realm of the show, into the overworld's mangrove swamp biomes and wetlands. So, we discussed one of the most famous bog bodies on the planet, the Tollund man. Now we are going to discuss the Bogged in Minecraft, The Bogged was introduced to us by Mojang themselves in a snapshot 24W07A on Valentine's Day, or February 14th, 2024 this year. But according to Minecraft Wiki, the Bogged was being slowly introduced to us in the trial chamber. They were warming us up to it before the snapshot, folks. When the trial chambers were initially available for testing, they had skeletons in there with poison-tipped arrows. The same poison-tipped arrows that the Bogged took over when they were introduced on Valentine's Day. After the Bogged's initial appearance on Love Day, a couple weeks later after that, they altered the design of it to have mushrooms growing off its head. I say this because the Bogged has already gone through a couple alterations already, folks, and it hasn't even been released into the game. And that's all due to a lot of feedback that the community gives. And I don't believe the mushrooms were from that. Maybe they were, but I think Mojang came up with that themselves. And who knows, there may be more alterations to this mod before 1.21 releases it officially, because they like to just keep on doing that, and who knows, maybe they'll throw out some more surprises for us. Now, allow me to describe this murky monster to you in its current form. Now, imagine your generic overworld skeleton, right? How they're just exposed white bones. Well, the Bogged looks off-white, not as pristine white as that overworld skeleton. This fellow is grimy, people. It looks like a dirty sock. I'm sorry for that gross image, but this thing looks like a dirty sock that was left in a gym locker for way too long. Yeah, it's getting some fungal matter on it. It is tinged with moss and algae patches all over his cranium. Its mouth is also full of this dark green fungal matter and decomposing swamp waste. It looks like it's just been feeding straight out of the swamp's toilet. It's quite gross. Or maybe that fungi is festering in its rotted mouth, and it's just, as I said, festering there. And let me describe its eyes. Its eyes remind me of Herobrine's, if you remember that episode 10, I believe. It looks like Herobrine's or White Eyes, but with a lesser degree of luminosity. It doesn't have that shine of that White Eyes has. Like I said, this is a grimy creature. This thing's been dunked in the muck. It lives in the muck. Now let me move on to its extremities. All four of its extremities are the color of soot. Its arms, its legs, the bottom third is a soot color, but I would depict this as being mud due to it mindlessly just roaming the mangroves and swamp biomes of the overworld. And as you all know, these are very muddy areas in the overworld. Now, let's move on to its torso. The Bogged has a tunic made very sporting. Very good look. Very dashing, good sir. But no, the Bogged has a tunic made of what looks like more moss, or maybe it's the debris from the mangroves stitched together that it made. I don't know. But very nice. And he also has a sash that goes across its chest, made of the same foliage as its tunic. Kind of with shoulder pads, the tunic and everything. Leaves. Yeah, this guy looks like he's going out on a date. I assumed the sash, at first, I assumed the sash was part of its quiver, but I didn't see a quiver when I looked at its back. So, it's not for a quiver. So then I thought maybe it's for its bow. Maybe he attaches his bow on the back of him when he's not using it to shoot us. But I doubt that. Maybe it's just his swamp regalia. I don't know. Now, let me get back to the mushrooms I mentioned earlier on its head. Yes, the Bogged has mushrooms on his head, as I had said. Specifically, he has a red fly agaric mushroom growing and a brown mushroom growing opposite of that fly agaric on the very top of his cranium. It is quite the disturbing sight to see. This thing is decomposed. The Minecraft swamps, soil, and water did not preserve this guy like it did to our friend the Tollund man. Not at all. Now, I would like to move on to the bogged behavior. The bogged is classified as the undead, and it is definitely in the skeleton family, but it is different from its counterparts. I would appoint the stray to being the most similar mob to the bogged, simply because they both shoot arrows that put a special damaging effect upon you. Yes, unsuspecting you. The regular skeleton typically has those plain arrows, right? There's no effects on those arrows. They aren't tipped with anything too dangerous. It's your typical arrow. Yes, they can be dangerous and annoying and they can knock you back, but no, there's nothing special. But the strays will slow you down with their arrows, right? That's where the similarity is in my head. While the bogged arrows will damage your health slowly with its poison effect. Also, it is worth mentioning that the bog fires off its volleys of arrows at a slower pace than a stray or skeleton. In fact, according to Minecraft Wiki, they shoot 1.5 seconds slower than the other two, giving them a 3.5 second cooldown rate between shots. So thank you, Mojang, for that at least. If you're going to put in a new enemy and encompass the overworld more with another mob, thank you for at least giving a slower cooldown rate. I appreciate that. Thank you. Because to be hit by a poisonous arrow in a swamp biome could be a mortal blow. I mean, that's adding a lot of dangerous in a lot of danger in an already dangerous environment. Not only is it difficult to traverse these places and navigate a swamp, but the poison will only add more of a challenge to this harsh biome, in my opinion. However, the poison itself won't kill you. I just want to let you know that. It'll bring you down to the brink of death, kind of like when you encounter a witch that hits you with a harming potion. It has a similar effect. You'll see rapidly your health decrease on the health meter bar. Yeah, just like a witch. Just envision that. And also, each time that you do get stuck with that arrow from the bogged, it's going to decrease your health down by 3, which equates out to half a heart. So, if you've already been hit, that's enough to deliver the death knell to you if you have already been weakened by the poison from a prior shot from a bogged. You get hit by one, you're taking on that damaging effect from that poison-tipped arrow. It's decreasing your health. It gets you down to, let's say, to 1 heart. And then another one hits you. That's a half heart. And another shot by another. Bam, you're dead fast. So, yeah, you got to be careful. And that's why I urge you to start carrying milk or honey with you. At least when you enter these biomes. I know that these encumber space in your personal inventory, but I wish that you could stack honey bottles at least. I want to say that, they should have it so we can stack bottles of the same variety. I think that would be useful, but carrying this will be very beneficial to you for when the update releases and the bogged roam these specific biomes. I'm just giving you a caveat, and I want you to just be prepared for when you go into mangrove swamps and swamplands in general once this update comes out. Milk and or honey is an antidote to these poison arrows. Same with witch potions, people. I know personally I'm going to start to utilize honey more often. I have a bunch of beehives, and that gives me an excuse to use them now. And like I said, I urge you as well. You don't want to get killed out in a swamp because that's not going to be fun going back to a swamp to retrieve your gear. By the way, a fun side fact about these bogged, and I think other entities do this as well. I didn't look into it, but this is the bog specifically. something to tell your overworld buddies as a trivia or on trivia night. The Bogged have an 89% chance of being right-handed, holding the bow with the right hand, and 11% chance of being a southpaw or left-handed. Southpaw is just, I think, an antiquated term for left-handers. And the interesting thing there, I know that probably doesn't sound that interesting, but the interesting thing there is that is the identical ratio to right-handed and left-handed people in the real world. I had a sneaking suspicion that Mojang made that ratio on purpose, and I looked it up, and I found out that I was right. And according to Wiki, 10% of the population is left-handed, and 90% is right-handed. I guess I was 1% off, but hey, that was close. I knew that Mojang tries to get as specific as they can. I'm on to you guys. Now, moving on, another great trick to damage these mobs, these Bogged, are to throw down an instant health potion. I'm sure a lot of you experienced players already know that the undead are harmed by this, but throwing down instant health potion, just like with zombies and other undead mobs, will damage the Bog. It will hurt it. And an instant damage potion will do the opposite of that, as you may already know. This will actually heal the Bogged if you throw that down. So damaged potions will heal it. Healthy potions will harm it. Another similarity that this fleshless fiend will have with the strays and skeleton, his cousins, is that it won't be able to swim. Thank you again, Mojang, for this as well. I am very happy that these things will just sink like rocks and won't be able to swim after me like the undead. However, they will not die underwater or suffocate, but at least they will not be able to chase you in a boat. But be careful in those swamps. Many of mine are rather shallow, I have noticed, like in Newfoundland, where I am reporting from right now. I can walk across a lot of that swampland. I do for clay, to extract clay from there. And so if I can walk around it, that suggests to me that the Bogged are probably going to spawn there and shoot me. And then all of the lily pads, I can imagine bogs generating on top of those as well, and that will make the swamp living more challenging. I would also like to add that these things can travel in bands of 4 people, according to Wiki. I imagine them just being as thick as the strays in the snow biomes, which is a lot. These mobs, one-on-one, aren't a big threat. Those don't really worry me too much, just taking them on one-on-one. But when they travel in hordes, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when it becomes deadly. I don't like that. Now I have mentioned several times that you will be able to find the Bogged in these swamps, right? But I gotta go on and tell you, the swamp will not be the only place that you will be encountering these. Like I said, they could be traveling up in 4, right, out there? Well, in fact, they will also be found in the trial chambers and will emerge out of the trial spawners that will be found in those chambers. And if you guys are familiar with spawners, well, the trial spawner is a new block that resembles a cage as well. And it is designed to spawn hostile mobs that will emerge in waves. The more players around it, like you and your buddies, or maybe it's just you, if it's just you, if you add a friend to it, it will depict the frequency or amount of hostile mobs that will spawn from this. It is designed to be challenging. The more people with you fighting, the more it's going to spit at you. I should also mention that the Bogged will also have the capability to spawn from the newest type of spawner that was revealed not long ago, the ominous trial spawner. Talk about a chilling name, right? Well, Ominous Events was released in Snapshot 24W13A on March 27th, 2024, which includes the Ominous Trial Spawner. The Ominous Trial Spawner is converted from the Trial Spawner that I just mentioned, right? Itself only when a player drinks from the new Ominous bottle. This is so cool, guys. The Ominous bottle, I know you guys are probably all like, what's this ominous bottle and ominous spawner? Okay, so if you want to get an ominous spawner, you're going to have to drink this ominous bottle, which is dropped by raid captains now, after you kill the raid captain. And so we are no longer automatically in a war with these pillagers when we kill those bannermen people. When we kill the person holding the flag, the pillager flags, we don't automatically go in a raid anymore. I'm ecstatic about that. I was getting so tired of always going to war when I kill those people because I don't like them just marching around my territory. So I often got into instant war after killing them. Well, we no longer do that, which I think is an amazing addition. I can't wait for it to come out. But when we kill them now, they're going to drop this thing now called an ominous bottle. And when you drink that, it's going to give you the bad omen effect. And that bad omen effect, when you go into the trial chamber, will convert the trial spawner into an ominous trial spawner now, which will release mobs in armor. The trial spawner itself will release mobs, but this ominous trial spawner will release them in armor. This makes it more of a challenge for those die-hard warrior players out there that love to battle. And for those seeking riches in battle, because you can collect that. There's going to be diamond armor on these things. You're going to be able to collect so much good stuff by battling in this. These trial chambers are going to be amazing people for battling. This is what you've dreamt of, people. It's what you have dreamt of, hardcore battle people, Minecraftians out there. This is your dream. I just have to say that over and over. This is what you've been waiting for. We've been waiting for that. I'm an explorer / combat player, so I'm excited as well. So that's why I'm so enthused by this. I apologize for going off track a bit, but it was worth mentioning the trial chambers and the ominous effect because the bog will be coming out of those ominous trial spawners. So I had to tell you about. So let's move on to what the bog will drop now on death out in those swamps. When you send a bog back to the expected hell that came from, it will have the potential to drop some items of interest to you. As most mobs in Minecraft, we all know that something drops something when you kill it. These will also carry those magical orbs with them. Those sought-after radioactive green pearls that are known as XP orbs. The Bogged, when killed, will drop 5 XP orbs for you to collect. And I believe up to 8 of these XP orbs, if it fails to drop an item like a sword or an arrow or bones, it should drop, I believe, up to 8 XP. On top of that, there's a chance that it will drop up to 2 bones or arrows and a 50% chance of that arrow to be poisonous. Also, there's an 8% chance of it dropping an enchanted bow. Remember, folks, also, I've told you this in the Celestial Bodies episode. Go check that out if you want to find out more about how the moon and everything affects mobs in the game. But remember, folks, full moons are the best time to collect enchanted armor from these foul monsters. So you will be able to profit off of these misshapen monsters in XP, enchanted bows, poison arrows, bones, and mushrooms. Just remember, those are all the things you can collect from these now. And mushrooms brings me to one more thing before wrapping up this show. Yes, it is another... It's poll time! Yes, I have one more poll. And trust me, it's a fast one, people. I asked the people of Minecraft this question. Another question. Yes, I'm a curious Dark Lord. Can you blame me? Now, the question was this. Do you plan on using the Bogged for mushroom farms? I had to know. And I gave him these 2 options. Yes or no. You may be asking yourself why I would ask that question. Well, when I mentioned that the bog has 2 mushrooms growing out of its head, I failed to mention that you can shear off those mushrooms, which leads me to asking that question. And they will drop 2 mushrooms, either the red, the fly agaric one I mentioned, or the brown mushroom. It's completely random what the bog will drop when you shear it. But I will tell you this, they will not grow back. It's a one-time deal only per bog. So that's the reason for my question. And I got a total of 8 votes from this question, which is a very small number. But let me explain. My poll was shut down. I failed to read the subreddit rules, and I posted on the day of a week, on a weekday, on a school night. I guess the rule on this subreddit was you can only post polls on Saturday. My bad. I apologize. I'm sorry. But I was able to get 8 votes before it got shut down. So that's my explanation on that. But I'm going to present the results regardless. And it was a 50-50 split, folks. A dead tie. I'm going to have to do another poll off this. Get a more accurate pool, But it was 4 yeses and 4 nos. I was a yes person, and I can see many people coming up with ingenious ways to farm the bogged. A mob farm is the thing that pops in my head for this, but I'm sure people will be coming up with dozens of ways to make it. I'm sure there's going to be thousands of YouTube videos on how to make bog farms for mushrooms. But, farms are so popular. You got your cow farms, iron farms, and then, like I said, the mob farms. And I think the bog will be used in that manner for its precious mushrooms. However, if you do not have a mob farm, it will be very dangerous collecting those out there in the swamps, because you're going to be open for attack if you're trying to shear them off in the swamp standing on lily pads or off your boat getting those mushrooms. And I think that's what led people to say no was, I don't want to go out there and collect mushrooms. Maybe they weren't thinking of the farming aspects of them, like the mob farm itself. That would be pretty good. I had one comment from a Redditor though, before that poll got shut down, and it made me laugh. And the commenter was by a person that goes by Forkson, who said, "Yeesh!" End quote. I am very happy, Forkson, that you are so excited for farming those bogged. And with the yeesh said, folks, that wraps up what I have to say about the bogged. And that brings me to the end of the show, folks. The Bogged. An appropriate name for this variety of skeleton. A creature that roams the marshlands, the bogs, the swamps, wetlands, however you want to call it. A deadly new creature with a deadly new arrow. An arrow that will deplete your health to near death. Found in the trial chambers. He's going to be everywhere. Watch out. But hopefully with your new knowledge of the behavior of the bogged, you will be capable and prepared to defend yourself and kill them for their loot. Beyond discussing the bogged in this episode, we also discussed something incredible. A perfect preservation of a man from 2,400 years ago called the Tollund man. We took a deep dive into his guts and discovered that he ate porridge and was sacrificed to perhaps their gods that they worshiped back then for fertility. Maybe. We don't know. Scientists don't know. We may never know, but I have faith in science, and I believe we will find out why he was sacrificed. And I just thought it was extremely interesting that to know his last meal was ate 12 to 24 hours prior to his death. and what was in his meal, and the threshing that was in that porridge that he ate led to more questions in archaeology. It's just amazing, folks. And I hope you found that all very interesting too. And I hope you guys are all geared up and ready and prepared now for when the Bogged is introduced with all the other amazing things coming in the 1.21 update. And with that said, I will be seeing you all next Thursday, and I look forward to it. Until then, keep on building, people. The Dark Lord signing out. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow me wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get my latest weekly episodes sent directly to you. Send this podcast to all of your friends that love Minecraft and to learn new knowledge. Comment on each episode and take a poll, and don't forget to rate the show. This will help me improve it. You can reach me at bio.link/realmnews. Again, you can reach me at bio.link/realmnews. There you will find the Discord. Let's build a Realm News community, folks. You can also find my email there and all my other social networks. There you will find some of the cool articles and videos from my research, polls, and Minecraft-related content.